Today we are talking about the signs of dementia, not to create fear but to bring awareness, compassion, and early understanding. Sometimes the changes begin quietly. A loved one, friend, or associate may start forgetting important things, becoming confused, struggling with familiar tasks, or acting differently than before. At first it may seem like stress, aging, or just having an off day. But when the signs repeat or begin to affect daily life, it is worth paying attention. This message is for anyone who has ever looked at someone they care about and wondered, is something changing? Recognizing the signs early can help families respond with patience, wisdom, and love.
Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you've ever misplaced your keys or, completely blanked on a neighbor's name, you've probably felt that little flash of panic. We've all been there, right? Walking into a room and thinking, wait, why am I in here? Today, we're diving right into the absolutely crucial differences between that normal, everyday forgetfulness and the actual, real-deal warning signs of dementia. Let's figure out how to tell the difference together. To make this whole topic super clear, here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover normal aging versus dementia, daily life and safety, mood and personality shifts, treatable dementia mimics, and finally, when to seek help. Think of this as your structured guidebook to understanding cognitive decline, zero unnecessary panic included. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Normal Aging versus Dementia. We're going to start by totally shattering the myth that dementia is just a normal, inevitable part of getting older. So, what's the actual distinction here? Well, the fundamental difference you need to lock in on is the word interfere. True dementia symptoms, they cross the line. They go from being a minor, everyday annoyance to actively interfering with a person's daily independence, their safety, and how they communicate. To really put that into perspective, think about this. Occasionally misplacing your reading glasses, or forgetting a name but remembering it like an hour later, or making a rare math error on a bill, that's completely normal stuff. But on the flip side, repeatedly forgetting recently learned info, or literally getting lost in familiar places like your own neighborhood, or completely blowing past bills, well, that's a serious red flag. It's really the frequency and severity that matters most here. The National Institute on Aging actually hit the nail on the head with this. They point out that occasional slip-ups happen to literally all of us. But when simple, everyday tasks start becoming major hurdles that a person just can't manage on their own anymore, okay, that is when it's time to pay closer attention. Moving right along to Section 2, Daily Life and Safety. Let's look at how these warning signs actually play out day to day, starting with some functional and physical hazards. When cognitive issues start throwing a wrench into daily life, it can be, quite frankly, deeply unsettling. You might notice someone struggling to plan out their day or sequence steps. Imagine suddenly finding it impossible to follow a cherished family recipe you've made 100 times. They might completely lose track of the year, or repeat the exact same question over and over simply because they can't retain the new info you just gave them. You might even notice them stopping mid-sentence, totally unable to find a really common everyday word.
Now there's a very specific flavor to misplacing things here. Look, we all lose our keys, right? But a real indicator of cognitive decline is misplacing objects in completely illogical places. We're talking about putting the car keys in the refrigerator. And honestly, what's even more concerning is being completely unable to retrace steps to find those items. That frustration can sometimes even lead the person to accuse others of stealing.
And it goes way beyond just memory. Cognitive decline severely impairs judgment and physical safety, which leads to some real vulnerabilities. We're talking about giving away money unusually or falling for scams. You might see a sudden neglect of personal hygiene, or maybe someone wearing a heavy winter coat in the blazing summer heat. Physical safety gets compromised by new spatial problems, too. Trouble judging distances can lead to dangerous mistakes behind the wheel, or even just an inability to walk safely.
So, let's transition to Section 3, Mood and Personality Shifts. Because dementia doesn't just affect memory, it can drastically alter who a person seems to be, completely shifting their emotional landscape.
These emotional shifts, they can be incredibly tough for everyone involved. You might see a new fearfulness, sudden depression, or this really unusual emotional flatness where there used to be joy. It's usually the family members who notice these changes first, like uncharacteristic anger or deep suspicion. And a major hallmark here is that while the family clearly sees this happening, the individual experiencing it often firmly, absolutely denies that anything is wrong.
Because of these shifts, you might notice the person pulling away from church, hobbies, or family dinners. And what's really interesting here, actually kind of heartbreaking, is that this social withdrawal isn't always rooted in depression. A lot of the time, it's just a practical defense mechanism.
Trying to keep up with fast-paced family conversations or remember the rules of a favorite hobby, it's just become way too exhausting, confusing, and overwhelming. Okay, let's take a quick breath and shift to some incredibly important, honestly reassuring news in Section 4. Treatable dementia mimics.
If you or a loved one are experiencing these symptoms, I know your mind probably jumps straight to the worst-case scenario. But listen, memory loss and confusion do not automatically equal a permanent dementia diagnosis, which obviously begs the million-dollar question, what else might be causing this?
This might just be the most important takeaway from this entire explainer right here. There are several fully reversible conditions that perfectly mimic dementia symptoms. A simple vitamin B12 deficiency, dehydration, thyroid problems, or even hidden infections can cause severe memory loss and confusion. Even medication side effects, profound stress, or just a bad lack of sleep can look exactly like cognitive decline. This is exactly why you should never, ever just assume the worst. These are treatable conditions, and a doctor can absolutely help resolve them.
And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, When to Seek Help. Let's take everything we've talked about and build a practical, empowering action plan.
If cognitive changes are new, if they're worsening and actively altering daily life, it's time to take action. Go ahead and book an appointment with a primary care doctor or a neurologist. But, and this is key, don't go in empty-handed. Come prepared with a specific written log of behaviors. Write down exactly what happened, when it started, and how often it pops up. Bringing this structured data actually helps the doctor cut through the noise and make a much more accurate diagnosis.
Now, we absolutely have to contrast a chronic, gradual decline with something else entirely. Notice the word sudden here. If confusion is sudden, or if it's accompanied with physical symptoms like weakness on one side of the body, facial drooping, trouble speaking, or severe headache and chest pain, guys, this is not a wait-and-see situation. These are indicators of an acute medical emergency, like a stroke or a severe infection. You need to seek urgent emergency care immediately.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Occasional forgetfulness is just part of being human. But knowing these structured differences, understanding when a misplaced key is just a nuisance versus when a misplaced key in the refrigerator is a huge red flag, well, that gives you the power to protect yourself and your loved ones. You've got the roadmap now. So the question is, will you know when it's time to make the call? Thanks for exploring this with me today, and keep learning out there.